Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my corner of the internet. My name is Jason, and today we're back with some more Elder Scrolls 2 Daggerfall. Last time we entered Lycanthropy's tomb, and we're searching for his remains so that we can go ahead and, put our magical sparkle dust on him to calm his spirit. We got this sparkle dust from Medora Dureni, and here's a zombie coming to greet us. Hey zombie, how's it going? And we're gonna get into, we'll say a physical altercation with the zombie. We're gonna present this like a police report. Holy crap, I'm gonna die. Oh wow. Okay, let's go ahead and I didn't want a potion. I wanted to actually use one of my enchanted items, which are all the way down at the bottom of my list because it's Daggerfall and it likes messing with things. So I did have it confirmed by a viewer, and I've already forgotten his name. I'm very sorry. I thought I wrote it down, but I didn't. But you know who you are. I've given you a thumbs up in the comments. Good job, guy. Thanks. That the reason why I am terrible with my hand-to-hand is indeed because my hand-to-hand skill is so low. So once we work on our hand-to-hand skill a little bit more and we get that beefed up, we will actually be a formidable force in werewolf form. But anyways, as I was saying, we got this powder, this dust from Medora, and now we are going to go ahead and try to find Mr. Lysandus so we can drop that on him. And you know what? Hey, if we can build up our hand-to-hand skill, that's cool. That's actually something I probably will play around with in future games as well, is hand-to-hand. I know it's not it doesn't fall into the archetype, but you know what? That's the lovely thing about the Elder Scrolls games, is that you don't always have to play exactly by the rules or play exactly to your class. I do like having a class system though. I do really enjoy that, and I was actually kind of sad when they pulled it out of Skyrim. And now Skyrim still plays well. It still plays perfectly fine. But I do miss the actual class system. You are in the wall, aren't you? Yeah, there's no way I'm gonna get you. Okay. You live today, rat. You lived for one more day. So yeah, I like the I like the class system, and I'm sad that it went away, and I'm hoping that the next Elder Scrolls game that comes out does go back to a class system, because I think it was good. I think it was good. I think it was good to be able to start off with a particular class and then be able to round yourself out a little bit more. Yeah, rather than starting off as a completely incompetent person. Completely incompetent, you can't do anything, and then later on, bit by bit, slowly build up your skills. I like the idea of, you're actually someone with some skill, and that's probably why you're in trouble in the first place, in jail or whatever like that. But then, over time you build those skills back up, kind of thing, or you can develop new skills. I don't know, I like that. We will see. We will see what the future holds. I don't know if Bethesda will be interested in that. I understand that Bethesda is a company. Now, and I do not mean this as a slight in any way. I realize we've been talking about the future games and about the direction that the games have gone since I started my arena playthrough. But and this is not meant to be, like I said, a slight to anyone or their preferences. I think that Skyrim is a perfectly good game. But it is when you strip away a lot of those things and you make we'll say the barrier to entry a lot lower, it's going to appeal to a lot more people. And that's, like I said, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just not to my preference. Yeah, I think more people need to refer to things like that. Is that, maybe it's not to your preference, but you can sort of understand the reasons why certain things were done. And it's not necessarily a negative thing, it's just a negative thing for you. Yeah, it kind of goes along with what I was saying in an earlier episode when I was talking about, like Batman and how I feel about Daggerfall. I understand that it's a good game for a lot of people. It is not a good game for me. There we go, see? We're being respectful all around. Actually, no, speaking of, we'll say Daggerfall, which is great, because, we're playing the game, and I'm glad that we're able to talk about Daggerfall. I was just trying to think about why there's something watery in here, but there's not a whole lot of water. So are you? Oh, okay. I know what's in here. I think. What the heck? Whoa! What do we got here? Oh, okay. He's here above water. That's an interesting development. It's a Drew, whatever. I just know his name is going to be in lowercase, whereas the nymph was in capital. That was capitalized. Yeah, Drew. Look at that. So I was trying to figure out what was it that. Well, there's a lot of reasons why I like Arena more than Daggerfall, but then I started thinking about, you know, maybe advancement had something to do with it. See, in Arena, you had a very clear indicator of how you were progressing through the game. You had your experience points. Everything was done very, like, old school, like Dungeons and Dragons almost. You know, is there a wall there in the? Oh, yeah, okay. It's being drawn. And you know, you gained experience for defeating monsters and you leveled up, and that just sort of made sense. There was no skill system, and in a way it kind of was nice. It was a very streamlined setup that kind of just sort of, you felt your advancement and it worked well for the game. You know, speaking of simplified games that, you know, are not bad just because they're more simple. You know, Arena, I think, is a great example of that. Come on, Slaughterfish, I gotta kill you. And you're gone. Oh, right. He went through the floor. The darn fish escaped me. And so I started thinking a little bit more about Daggerfall and its you know, its advancement system. And while I think that the direction they went with, let me see, fish sticks and buoyancy, you know, making it so that you advance your skills by using them. You know, that's something that we see in the Elder Scrolls going forward from Daggerfall, you know, into Morrowind, into Oblivion, into Skyrim. You know, using the skills, it's kind of become sort of we'll say a defining trait of an Elder Scrolls game. And I think that's fantastic. Darn it! I want to loot things! Okay, I'll transform back real quick. There we go. Actually, I got something to say about that a little bit later as well. So anyways, it's nice that, you know, you have that system. Now, on that note, I feel like it wasn't quite taken far enough. It wasn't done quite well enough. Because I can't look at my individual skills in Daggerfall and say, okay, well, you know, my hand-to-hand is this far along. It's almost going to level up. It's going to tick up another percentage point. We don't have that. In Morrowind, they started doing that, where you could actually check. You know, I've used this skill so many times, and as such, it's this close to leveling up that skill. You could, you know, had a little bit more of a minute control over, or not control, a little bit. You got a little bit more detail about how you were advancing, and that I found that helped. That was nice, because you could see your progress. As interesting as it is, you need that sort of. It's not really validation. It's just you need to be able to see that you're making progress. And then this got me thinking. I'm like, is that really necessary? You know, I like some games when they don't show you all the mechanics, because it forces you a little bit more to actually, you know, it forces you to role play a little bit more, to sort of explore the game, and to experiment and stuff, to really figure things out. You know, real life doesn't have progress bars or stats. Well, maybe they do kind of have some stats on some items, you know, but those are usually provided by the manufacturer or something like that, you know? You're not going to find, like, on a can of soup, it's not going to be like, this will heal hunger by 20 points. You know, there's none of that. So, in a way, you know, a little bit of, we'll say, opaqueness, or a little bit of, you know, hidden details, I find can be we'll say, a good thing, we'll say, immersion, to stop people from min-maxing. Now, I know some people like to play it, like, you know, min-maxing. They like to play it in that way. And there's nothing wrong with that. but at the same time, it does do something. As something as simple as hiding mechanics or hiding mechanics can have a drastic effect on how a game is perceived and how a game is played. So I started thinking about that. I was like, well, if, you know, Daggerfall, it obstructs the view of some of this advancement, is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? And it was hard for me to say either way because I was just saying, I like some games that kind of hide that because it forces you to go, okay, well, you know what? I don't know. You know, if there's a game that doesn't show you how strong a particular weapon is, you just kind of have to eyeball it and just experiment with it and learn it. And it adds an extra little, say, wrinkle to the game for you to explore. And I love that kind of exploration. And yet, I find it to be one of the aspects that kind of detracts from Daggerfall for me. And that's because, you know, I can't see my advancement. I don't always know when I'm going to level up. You know, I'll go hand-to-hand punching things for ages. I don't know if it's doing anything. I try experimenting a little bit, you know, with spells to see if I can advance my casting. And I can't tell if I'm making actually any progress or if my methods are working because the game won't tell me. So, you know, you could just say, well, Jason, you need to experiment harder. And yeah, okay, I could do that. You know, I could also go look things up online. There's all sorts of different options to me. But I don't know. It kind of kills the advancement in the game, and maybe it's because that Daggerfall has so many shortfalls in so many other areas that I really feel that lack of additional information that I'm really yearning for, that I really want. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I don't know what else to say to that. So I guess we'll move on from that topic. What do you guys think? Do you think like, I understand, you know, people want to see their stats, they want to be able to see that advancement, but do you think vague stats or vague information on your advancement can be used well? Do you think it's a good thing? Or would you rather have the exact numbers? You know, this does 5 points of damage, this does 6 points of damage. Or do you think, you know, from a role-playing perspective, it's actually better to have various weapons that are kind of, it's not so clear-cut. It's like maybe this thing is just listed as sharp, and this thing is listed as sharp as well. I don't know. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think Daggerfall's, we'll say, advancement system is fine as it is? Like, for example, if I go under, like, primary, I can see what my skills are here, but I can't see how far along each one of these skills are. I just know that's 48% for illusion, and I can't see how far along the illusion is to actually leveling up. So, do you think that's cool, or do you think it definitely got fixed in later Elder Scrolls games? Let me know. All right, now, earlier I was getting a little bit frustrated with the werewolf form because, you know, I'm like, I want to be able to loot things, and I want to be able to deal with the werewolf thing, you know? It's a kind of a pain. And I got a comment from Figures. I feel bad when I write down one viewer's name but not another's. But Ben Sievers, I believe it was. Oh crap, I'm gonna die. Had mentioned, you know, about an option, because I had mentioned Daedra summoning in an earlier episode. I was like, you know what, someone else had given me the idea. Whoa, there's two of them. All right, that's cool. I'll take you both on, guys. You know, they had mentioned Daedra summoning, and I was like, you know what, I should check that out, because it's something different for us to go ahead and look at. It's something different for us to do, and it'd be showing off another part of the game. So that was something I was exploring, and I had looked up online, you know, how to go ahead and do that, and a lot of the, you know, sources basically told me, you know, go up, advance in a certain faction to gain access to, we'll say, Daedra summoning, and then spend money on a certain day and stuff like that, and then, you know, that was about the extent of what I I had researched. Now, during my research on, we'll say, getting my lycanthropy cured, I had run across some little write-ups about witch covens, or covens, whatever. I had encountered some of those, and those came up again when I was looking at Daedra Quest, but I didn't really think too much of it. But then when I got this comment, it mentioned that in Daggerfall, in one of the houses, there was somebody who could basically put me in touch with Hircine, basically allow me to do the Daedra summoning for, was it like 200,000, I believe? Although if my research is correct, the exact amount of gold can vary. No, that's only for a faction. That's right. Since I don't really have a reputation with the Coven, I would likely be paying full price. Anyways, so it's possible that this character, this person in the city of Daggerfall that I was directed to, may actually be a member of a coven who I can go ahead and talk to about getting in touch with a Daedra known as Hircine, I believe. And I'm familiar with Hircine because I've heard the name in relation to Hircine's ring, which was present in Morrowind. Well, more specifically, the expansion Blood Moon. So, I'm seeing that as an option now. Maybe if I can't get cured, because, you know, the curing thing can be a real pain, to go ahead and to even get started, as we've seen. I had to wait like a year. You know, if I get through this bit of the quest, you know, and I happen to have, you know, 200 grand lying around, I might just go ahead and see if I can get my hands on Hircine's ring. And if you don't know what Hircine's ring is, it's basically a nice magical artifact that will allow me to basically hold my, basically control my lycanthropy. I won't need to transform. I will have full control over my form, and that is obviously you can we'll say deduce. You can kind of see the benefits of an item like that. So I think I might actually do that if the cure doesn't come up you know, soon. I think I might just go ahead and try to get the ring, and that'll be the course we take for dealing with lycanthropy. So now because of, we'll say, the game being what it is and being as repetitive as it is, because hey, look, you know, the same texture on the wall again, I was sort of searching around trying to find various topics of discussion. Actually, can I rest? There's enemies nearby. I should have rested back over there. Let's try sneaking back over here and then resting, because I need to get some of my health and stamina back up. We'll rest for like 2 hours. That's a little bit better. I don't want to rest for too long, lest someone creep up on me. So anyways, I was looking up, I was trying to find maybe fun facts for Daggerfall, things I could go ahead and discuss. And, you know, one thing I really wanted to find was oh, there's a ghost right there coming at me. Look at him. And I'm paralyzed. Awesome. So let's go ahead and use freedom and just deal with this ghost. One of the things I was trying to find, and I wasn't able to find it, mind you, I didn't search for it an incredibly long amount of time, I just searched for a bit, was the development time. I wanted to know if there was a great difference between the development time used on Arena and the development time used in Daggerfall, because I was really curious about you know, how long it took them for each game, because I felt that, you know, Arena was so varied, and Daggerfall was, well, is not. You know, I was trying to figure out, you know, maybe I wanted to see how much of an impact time had, and so I wasn't able to get exact numbers. It does look like they both had roughly the same amount of time. However, you know, I know even Arena was delayed a bit. I believe it was originally supposed to be have a holiday release in 2000. Yes, it's a 2003 game. Supposed to have a holiday release in 1993, and it came out in, I believe, early 1994, not 2004. Dang. Okay. So, and then you know, Daggerfall released in 1996. So it makes me wonder, you know, was there a difference in development time, or was a lot of maybe Daggerfall's development time used on the engine, you know, because there's a very different engine here. So was there more behind the scenes stuff that was worked on, and that's what slowed things down? Or, you know, really was it the detailed sprites? Because I'll talk about, you know, how bland Daggerfall is, but I gotta say the character sprites look a whole lot better than they did in Arena. There's a definite, we'll say, quality bump there. So it's like Arena had the quantity, but didn't quite have the quality. And you know, Daggerfall's got the you know, the reverse of that. Okay, I'm gonna die here unless I heal myself. I could go ahead and use spells. You know, I do have some spell points I could use. Yeah, I'm gonna start using my healing spells a little bit more instead of always having to rely on my enchanted items. I don't know how many charges are left on that thing. Can I check that? No, of course I can't, because I'm currently shapeshifted and I can't access my inventory. Right. Well, anyways. So, you know, I was curious about that. Was it time? Was it, you know, how was that time spent? It's like, I would love to have that be, you know, sort of behind the scenes thing. And maybe I'll go, well, say watch or read some interviews from the time to kind of see if I can sort of piece things together. But it was an it's an interesting line of thinking, an interesting thought to, right, I meant to shape change first. Let's see, what have we got here? We've got gold 48. Ugh. I hate the fire. The fire makes this that noisy glitch sound, and it drives me nuts. It's so distracting. I'll be talking and then burn. It's like, I don't know, it's like dubstep throwing up. Yeah, okay, that works, Jason, because dubstep can do that. A genre of music can perform bodily functions. Right on. Okay. Sure. Why not? Yeah. One little tidbit, though, that I did come across while I was looking up little things for Daggerfall was that apparently the game was originally going to be called Mournhold, and it was going to be set in Morrowind. And I thought that was interesting. One, because, you know, seeing the name and where it was supposed to be set, it kind of gives you a bit of a clue. Maybe not a clue, sorry. It kind of gives you a clue. It kind of shows you where their mind was at, and it kind of explains how Morrowind ended up being the next game in the series. Sorry, technically, the next mainline game in the series. That's right, because after, let's see, after Daggerfall, they went, was it Battlespire first? I think Battlespire came first, then it was Redguard, then Morrowind. And so, maybe I'm wrong with that, you know, or maybe they went and looked back at some old notes they had for Mournhold, you know, as it originally was going to be, and they said, hey, let's turn this into the third game. Yeah, who knows? It's an interesting thought. Either way, this here, why does this look familiar? I don't know why. This looks familiar. I'm gonna go down there, but first I want to explore this other thing. I suspect this is, wait, that's gonna lead down as well. So, do I go down this way or that way? Let's go down this way first. I don't know why. Maybe I should have gone down the other way. Let's go back down the other way. We're gonna go back this way and then go down this ramp, these stairs. It's like, I should oh, you know, can I rest? There's enemies nearby. Of course there are. I was like, see, back to that advancement thing. I've punched a lot of zombies, and I'm kind of wanting. Oh, this is going down even further. I'm kind of wanting to see some progress on my hand-to-hand. I'm like, I've used my hand-to-hand a lot. I should be getting some hand-to-hand advancements. Let's see, did that fill in on my map? Because I know I'm going to look at this later and say, oh, there's nothing down there, but... Alright, so we filled in all of the map down that way. Let's go ahead and check the other way. Hello? There's another zombie down there at the end. Yeah, I want to see some advancement. I want to be able to see, like, you know, your hand-to-hand has increased. To be like, yeah! Now, I don't know if there's a minimum amount of time you need to sleep before that, we'll say, will pop up. Or, you know, sort of engage or whatever, trigger. I think that's the word I was looking for. But, let's just keep doing it. Zombie just died. Hooray. Let's rest for like 2 hours and see what happens. Wake up. Hand-to-hand critical strike and dodging. Nice. Nice that actually our dodging is increased as well. That will be helpful. What dodging is a primary skill. And it's only at 45%. So you know what? Maybe staying in werewolf form will be a good idea. Maybe I should do like a combination werewolf and chameleon. So basically be like a stealth werewolf for the next little while. Build up my hand-to-hand and my dodging skill. And that will allow me to, you know, really avoid being hit. I think, you know, right now, I think that's about the extent of what I can do. Because I'm... Actually, that's interesting. My character is, oh, we have a lever. I like levers. We have an elevator here. Okay. All right, we've got an elevator. Let's stand on the elevator and pull the lever. And this will lead us down, right? There we go. Down we go. So yeah, my character is more, we'll say, an agility type character. More of a stealthy, stuff like that. So I'm thinking, you know, our dodge is pretty low. And that might be why we have a bit of a harder time. Now dodge I don't think is going to help at all against, we'll say, magic casting. So, but I think right now we're being sort of propped up by our agility. So I wonder if we can get our dodging rate up. You know, really boost that through the roof, how much that will impact us. Because that's pretty low, considering what's our level again? We're level 12. Now, the early Elder Scrolls games I found tended to be a little bit more on the, they kept things on the low end of the scale for levels. It was a little bit more in line with more of like pen and paper RPGs. Like, I played, I didn't play a whole lot of D&D. I played mostly games from Palladium books, stuff like Rifts. And leveling in we'll say, for example, Rifts was incredibly slow. I think the highest level character I ended up getting, mostly because I mostly ran the games. I was mostly the game master. But when I did get to play, I think my highest level character made it to level 2 or 3? 3, I think it was. And it could take several sessions for you to get just to level 2. Now, I from what I understand, you know, maybe D&D's a little bit more fast-paced than the Palladium system as far as leveling up goes. But you know, that is a trait I've noticed of with pen and paper RPGs, is that their leveling tends to be a little bit slower. And leveling is I found was mostly increased in video games because people wanted to see their advancement a little bit more frequently. They wanted to see it a little bit more. And they wanted that constant feeling of advancement. So, you know, more levels that maybe didn't have as much of an impact on your character were sort of implemented. You'll notice, you look at levels in games, and actually maybe I'm about to make a false statement. Let's see. I'm going to make the statement knowing that full well that it may be incorrect, and I'm telling you guys that it may well be incorrect. So keep that in mind. This is an interesting dungeon layout. I'm sorry, I just noticed this. I'm like, wait, this room. I have not seen this layout before. Okay, that's cool. That older games tended to have, let's say, lower levels, and then later games tend to increase, we'll say, level cap in them, and that's totally going to get. I don't know. I have the first Final Fantasy, but I have not played it enough for me to go, yes, the level cap is here. Because to me, you know, every Final Fantasy game I've played, you know, it's like the level cap has gone up to like level 99. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, I don't know if like the first Final Fantasy games actually had that high of a leveling system. I'll need to go and break out my copy, yeah, one of my copies of Final Fantasy, and see what the level cap was. That'll be an interesting view. Maybe it's a difference between, let's say, Japanese and Western developers. Well, it looks like we have arrived somewhere. Yes, somewhere different. This looks like an important area. All right, we're not gonna go in there just yet because there's rats and I'm scared of rats. I'm the big burly werewolf and I'm scared of rats. Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and stop things here because I'm out of time. We're gonna go ahead and save this as end 32. Now, do I have a book on me? I liked what I read about the whole worship thing. I found it was a very fun read. It was cool seeing the lore, and it got me a little bit more. I don't want to say more interested, but it got me, reminded me, you know, I want to read some books here. I am basically out of time, but let's see if we can't fit one in. Legal basics. Sure. Let's read legal basics. Legal basics. All right. No author labeled. Ignorance of the law is no defense. Be forewarned that the following are but the most universal of Tamrielian laws and regulations. Your own local province or principality may have unique laws of its own. As a citizen of Empire, not the Empire, just Empire, it is your right and responsibility to know and follow these laws of the land. Breaking and entering. This refers to any act including, but not limited to, opening, breaking, and incinerating? Magically transporting, or in any way causing a door, window, or other portal that has been magically or mundanely locked, or which a reasonable person would assume to be so restricted to be passable, and the act, though the act is not required for the definition of entering the house, business, or public location through said defined portal. That's actually pretty well written, I would think. I don't see any loopholes, because I was going to say, well, I can go through the wall, but then they say of which a reasonable person would assume to be so restricted. A wall's kind of, you know, restricted to be passable. A wall's kind of restricted. And the act of entering, though the act is not required for the definition. So this basically says that if you even try to enter the place, basically if you unlock it but don't enter the place, it's still considered breaking and entering, even though you never went into the place. Which explains why guards will come after you if you lockpick a door. Or try. The punishment for this crime may include a fine or incarceration, or a fine and incarceration. The fine and incarceration, or both, or neither, may be less in a crime of attempted breaking and entering. A crime of attempted breaking and entering is defined as any act, that wasn't well written, that a reasonable person would perceive as the preparation for an attempt, whether successful or not, or perceived to be possibly successful or not, to bring about the opening, breaking, incinerating, magically transporting, or in any way causing a door, window, or other portal that has been magically or mundanely locked, or which a reasonable person would assume to be so restricted to be passable, and the act, though the act is not required for the definition, of preparing or attempting, whether successful or not, perceived to be possibly successful or not, entering the house, business, or public location through said defined portal. Now, they did say it's through defined portal, so maybe if I go through the wall, we're good. All right. This is going to be a dry, horrible read, but let's do it anyways. Trespassing. This refers to walking, flying, riding, teleporting, floating, or in any way moving or existing on a property, without the explicit written or spoken permission a reasonable person might infer of the owner or caretaker of the property. The punishment for this crime may include a fine or incarceration, or a fine and incarceration. Assault. Any threat or attempt, whether successful or not, to do physical, emotional, mental, or magical harm or injury to another person, group, or of persons or entity a reasonable person might assume to be sentient. The punishment for this crime may include a fine or incarceration, or fine and incarceration. Murder. Any act of premeditated or malicious, or premeditated and malicious, or an act that a reasonable person would call premeditated and malicious, or premeditated or malicious, or accidental but criminally intended, or what a reasonable person would call criminally intended, purpose that results directly in the death or destruction with implied death of a person, group of persons, or entity a reasonable person might assume to be sentient. The punishment for this crime may include a fine or incarceration, or a fine and incarceration, but not death itself. Okay. That's good. Okay, that's interesting. The Empire does not have the death penalty, evidently. Criminal conspiracy. Any meeting, communication, or encounter with the purpose, or which a reasonable person might assume had the purpose, of preparing or arranging a crime of any kind, or crimes of any kind, to be committed or caused to be committed. The punishment for this crime may include a fine or incarceration, or a fine and incarceration. Vagrancy. Any act of idleness, disorder, begging, or conduct unbecoming a person with occupation, gold, or a home. Wait. Unbecoming a person with occupation, gold, or a home. Or occupation, gold, and a home. Or occupation or occupation or gold and home, or occupation and gold or home, or occupation and home or gold, or what a reasonable person would consider idle, disorderly, beggarly, or unbecoming. The punishment for this crime may include a fine or incarceration, or a fine and incarceration. So if you're begging, they'll fine you. Interesting. This actually brings up something. I'll talk about this. I'll talk about this in maybe the next video. Smuggling. Any act of bringing in, taking out, teleporting, or causing to be brought in, taken out, or teleported an object considered illegal, or if not illegal, requiring an import or export tax which is not paid. The punishment for this crime may include a fine or incarceration, or fine and incarceration, and will include confiscation of the offensive or illegal object, and may also include but not be restricted to execution or banishment, or execution and banishment. Wait, how does this work? Execution and banishment? So they're like, we're going to kill you and then banish you. Okay, sure. What? All right, cool. I don't, maybe banishment then execute. That doesn't make any sense. I don't understand this. I don't understand the punishment for smuggling, or why smuggling would be worse than murder. Okay. High treason. Any act against, whether directly or indirectly, or any non-action which results in circumstances directly or indirectly against an allegiated? I'm not sure if that was spelled right. A sovereign, or by a vassal to a liege, resulting, or what a reasonable person would assume would result in physical, emotional, mental, or magical harm or injury in said sovereign or liege. The punishment for this crime will be death. Okay, we're almost done. Pickpocketing. Any act of stealing, taking, or without explicit written or verbal permission, or what a reasonable person would infer as an implied permission, an item or items, a person, group, or persons, or entity a reasonable person might assume to be sentient, as on his, her, its, or their own person. The punishment for this crime may include a fine or incarceration, or fine and incarceration. Theft, sometimes called larceny. Any act of stealing, taking, or without explicit written or verbal permission, or what a reasonable person would infer as implied permission, an item or items from a person, group, of persons, or entity a reasonable person might assume to be sentient, place of residence, business, person, or other location a reasonable person would assume is secured from looting. The punishment for this crime may include a fine or incarceration, or fine and incarceration. These are the usual day-to-day definitions used by legal experts like myself. Well, aren't you high on your horse? But both the definitions and punishments may fluctuate wildly according to location and situation. In the Imperial City, legal counsel is available by persons like myself, but the provinces have no such system in place. Perhaps that will change in time. We can all hope so. As a final note, the Tamriel legal system has its basis in the civilized, reasonable credo uttered by the prophet Maruk in the First Era. All are guilty until they have proven themselves innocent. Were truer word ever spoke. Okay, this is actually a really interesting little tidbit we got out of this book. In Tamriel, you are guilty until proven innocent. That's interesting. That's very interesting. Okay, well, if you liked the video, you liked the content, and you would like to see more of it, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, leave it a thumbs down. Either way, let me know what you thought in the comment section. And until next time, I would like to ask you all to game on.